All right. So this is a question that I received from one of my students. Hey Jay, about rec letters. Other than the subject teachers and school counselor, for the additional supplemental or just one to replace? Question mark. Would it benefit to find someone of high status and crazy profile? If so, what kind of people and how does it work? It's a very good question, young student. So, to begin, I want to show you kind of how the schools will ask for rec letters, and from there, you could see what the requirements are, what the format would be. There's the counselor. This is automatic. Most times, schools will have a Naviance, some sort of portal where you link your school to the application, and that's usually taken care of. If not, you should be meeting with your high school counselor and should be discussing your college list to some extent. Then there's the teachers. There's usually two. The golden rule is to have two. This is Caltech, by the way. So Caltech on the Common App. It's very, very misleading because it's kind of, I think they didn't add this extra special kind of requirement for Caltech because they do have one of the harder restrictions in terms of what you need to provide. You need to have one from a math and science teacher and one from a humanities and social science teacher. So generally, if you're an engineer and top tier, you're aiming for MIT and Caltech. That's where the rule that everyone kind of just picked up came from. It's the whole, you have one math science, one humanities being English, history, foreign language, social studies. But yeah, I think you have to go through each school because if you take a look, here's Columbia. Columbia just has two and then optional zero. And Columbia doesn't have that hard requirement if you read into the details. Some of them are soft requirements. For example, UPenn here's UPenn, recommenders, teachers, one required, one optional. But if you actually go to their website, their admissions website, here's what they say. When asking a teacher for a recommendation, Penn would like to hear from teachers that you had most recently. So 11th grade, because you're applying from 11th to 12th. These would be teachers you had during your junior or senior year in major academic subjects, such as math, science, history, English, or foreign language. The best academic recommendations come from teachers who know you well. So it says Penn would like to, but ultimately they're giving the advice that you should go for the teacher who knows you well. So maybe it's that 10th grader teacher or even 9th grade teacher who's known you and has become your club advisor. Yes, she didn't teach you or he didn't teach a class academically for you in a core subject, but nonetheless, so they're giving kind of a softer recommendation, whereas schools like Caltech give much harder requirements. If you're curious about the teachers, like once you figure out a general college list, and that's what you should be doing by this point. If you're a junior, you should have somewhat of a college list preset or at least discussed one or two iterations of it. Then you can actually go ahead and create a practice account like me, log in and start checking things out. In a broader sense, you can do a quick little search on Google, do college transitions and look up college letter of recommendation requirements. And they tend to keep up a pretty good up-to-date list of all those like very specific things. So for example, if you are interested in liberal arts, all girls colleges, Barnard is usually up there. It's a really cool option with Columbia. But they have a request for core classes. So you have to kind of look up what core classes mean. And they prefer 11th grade. That's just for teachers. I don't think I've even answered my student's question yet. It's for the supplementals now. So where do the supplementals come in? So one more time, just for parity's sake, let's go back to Caltech. You had the counselors. You remember I discussed that. Teachers, 2 to 1. Be careful about Caltech. Common App is not warning you or giving you the notice that they have a special requirement. Other schools have other requirements. And then there's the supplemental rec letters. I'm starting to make them, my students say or call them other now because of just matching with the Common App. But this is basically anyone else outside of, it could be another teacher, it could be a principal, it could be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And this is, I think, where the question lies. First, how many can I ask? And you'll find that answer via either going directly onto their websites of each college undergraduate admissions, or a quick way that I do is just kind of creating a college list on the Common App and just taking a look like this, just under each school, recommenders, FERPA, and you could see that. How do you quantify these? I would argue that the higher the rank, the higher in prestige. Obviously, uh, there's a difference between getting a pre-written generic letter from a Fortune 500 CEO versus a Fortune 500 CEO writing you a very personalized, "Hey, this student was my assistant. This kid is phenomenal. I plan on supporting him to an MBA program." There's a big difference in quality that I think we can pick at here. But in general, status, prestige, I think they go a long way. I think for other recommenders, if it's your best friend, or frankly, I'm not too impressed with things that are like community out of just for the sake of uh, I don't know, like fellowship kinds of things. I'm looking for more impressive technical experience in the background. So maybe an internship advisor, a director, someone who managed you in a work experience, as opposed to something that was more that didn't have that much kind of skill set or technical experience required. Maybe I'm thinking too much STEM here. Obviously, if you've done other things that are non-technical but still organizational and shows managerial skills, I got to make sure I include those. But if it's just like, "Hey, I have a best friend because I had another peer recommendation, can I put this in?" It might not hurt. I would want to read it personally to see if it could add to your case versus detracting from your case. Can these detract from your case? I think they can. If you haven't seen a case of how a rec letter can detract from your case, go look up one of my videos, the a bad teacher recs. But I'm getting off track here. I think for other recommenders, there's a lot of variability. Let's take a look at USC. How many others does USC ask for? They don't even ask for any. Let's see, Michigan, University of Michigan, recommenders. They can ask up to 2. Let's go back to Columbia. How many did Columbia ask for? Just an additional 1. Princeton, 2. So you're generally getting about 2. So that's why I've recommended 2 teachers and usually 1 or 2 other or supplemental rec letters, preferably someone who's seen you in a work experience or a technical experience or a leadership or a managerial experience. And then what would happen is we would have to go further in detail about that if the student wasn't still sure. Maybe there's a choice between A, B, and C. And usually I spend some meeting times to kind of think it through with them. The argument sometimes is to just invite all 3. Let's say you have to choose between 3 and there's only 2. You can invite all 3 for now. And then I think at the very end, unless they've changed this, you could still kind of at the last minute make a decision of which 2 you want to select from all those that you invited. So yeah, with that being said, I think other recommenders, how much of an impact ultimately will they have? It can make a big difference. Some schools, so on the one hand, it comes down to how seriously the schools take it. I don't have a chart of which schools take it that seriously versus not as seriously. I do think that a letter that has a high level of rapport behind it is going to raise some eyebrows. So if that's what you need to get your evaluation to that next hump or that next tier of approval from the readers, then I think I've seen that happen. Obviously can't confirm that with my students, but I do know that there are some students that really have to showcase their strengths through other recommenders, and they get great recommendation letters, and I've seen them do well as well. So it's something that you shouldn't skimp out on. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you guys for the next one.